Hi friends, welcome back to Flashes of Joy. So we are on a cookie kick right now. And so I have two famous chocolate chip cookies around me. I'm sure around you there are people that are known for their cookies, especially chocolate chip cookies. So one of them is our pastor's wife Diane, and her cookies are totally famous. And so I have her recipe. It doesn't always turn out the same way as hers do. They're still good. They're just not the same because she has some sort of trick. But the other person is my friend Jo. Her website is worklifekids.com, so go check her out. I'll also link it below. But her chocolate chip cookies are fabulous too. And every time we go over and they are presented, I am so excited. So I wanted to see if I took out all the different variables of who's cooking it, what kind of chocolate chips, what kind of flour, what kind of oven, all that kind of stuff, which one would be better, at least for me, because it totally is preference. And if you like a chewy cookie, if you like a crunchy cookie, there's all these different things. So with all that said, I am doing it for myself and my family as a taste off, and let's go. First up, we will make the Diane cookies.
I'm making half the amount of the second cookies, mostly because this one was easier to have and because I have a shortage of chocolate chips. But we're doing half a cup of butter and we're adding half a cup of sugar into the butter that's mixing and creaming. So we will make sure that that gets creamed really well. Now we're adding half a cup of brown sugar and we'll add that in, but be careful of, it's jumping out, so be careful and slow it down if you need to. And then we have the dry ingredients that we'll mix while that is going. We want it to get nice and airy in there, so we'll do this in the meantime. 1.5 cups of flour. This is just plain all-purpose flour. Next, we're adding a teaspoon of baking soda, and this cookie actually only calls for baking soda, whereas the other one calls for baking soda and baking powder, so that is a difference between the two. And then don't forget to add some salt and mix. Let's go back to our wet ingredients and add 1 egg. And just a reminder that this one is half the size. The batch is half the size of the other one that we'll be doing. Here's our half teaspoon vanilla. But because of the size difference, it could look different because this one might not whip up as much, but it looks pretty good. So let's add those dry ingredients in. And I'm just going to dump it all in. And I will start the mixer slowly so that the flour doesn't just jump out all over the place. And we just want it to be nice and mixed, but barely mixed. We don't want to over mix it because then the dough might be a little hard and that's not what we want. Okay, let's just scrape everything in and we're going to mix the chocolate chips. I am using Ghirardelli 60% dark chocolate chips because I love it. And we're doing half a cup. Now we'll mix the chocolate chips in by hand, but hopefully I don't regret doing this impromptu bake-off because my chocolate chips were a little bit less than what I thought I had, but nonetheless, it looks pretty good.
Go for number 2. These are Jo's cookies. So say the special thing that is different between the two. So the number 2 cookies, the Jo cookies, are supposed to rest in the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. That is not called for the Diane cookies, but to make it an equal comparison, I decided, why not? If it's supposed to get better when the cookies rest and we can have that self-control not to bake it right away, why not make it even and give it a try? So let's do that.
Okay, this one we're going to have the whole full batch, and so this is about double the size of the other one. So we're going to start with the 1.25 cups of butter that I left out to soften overnight, and we're going to whip that up really well so that it's soft and fluffy and creamy. To that, we will add sugar. This is just plain granulated sugar, and we're adding a whole cup. And I'm speeding it up here because it is getting creamy, and I want to slow it down a little bit for the brown sugar. Based on what I learned before, it just starts going all crazy all over the place. So be careful with that you don't create another mess. But here's the other quarter cup of the brown sugar. And again, while that's mixing, let's put together our dry ingredients. And this one is a little bit more complicated in the sense that we are going to weigh everything out. If you have 8.5 ounces of cake flour, feel free to use that. I do not, so I am doing a mix of 7.5 ounces of all-purpose flour with an ounce of cornstarch. So close, almost there, come on. Okay, now we need 8.5 ounces of bread flour. So we have bread flour because we bake bread a lot. You might not, in which case you can do all-purpose flour, all of it. Okay, here we go. Now let's get our baking soda, and we're going to add 1.25 teaspoons to our dry ingredient mix. The first cookies only called for baking soda, but this one is going to add 1.5 teaspoons baking powder. So let's go ahead and add that now. Once we mix this up, we are ready with the dry ingredients. The butter is looking great, so let's add 2 eggs, one at a time. We'll wait for one to be incorporated, and then we will add the other one and make sure that gets incorporated. I'll speed this up a little bit since nothing will get over mixed at this point. And here we go with the other egg. That is in, and we will get our vanilla to add. But look at that butter, it's looking super creamy. It looks great. And then here's the vanilla. I'm gonna add a teaspoon. And let's just scrape this down before we add our dry ingredients. We'll just dump this all in. And again, this is going to be similar like the first cookies. We're going to mix it just until it comes together. We don't want to over mix it. We don't want our cookies to be hard. So just until it comes together. And there's a lot of flour, so just be patient. It will come together, and you can always mix it by hand at the end too. Okay, look at that. You can still see the flour pieces, but I think it's a good amount of coming together because we can still mix this the last touches by hand, as we're doing here. And this looks great. Now it's time for chocolate chips. So last time it was about half the size, the batch, and so this time I'm doing double the chocolate chips of what we had last time to keep those portions about the same so that people can't say the chocolate chip count was different. All right, mix it up, make sure those chocolate chips are everywhere, and then we're going to roll them into balls, golf ball sized, before we refrigerate, and we'll just get those all done. It's a lot, but keep doing it. Here we are, both batches done.
We are here, and I have learned the hard way because I did make these before, and when I tried to just put them in the fridge and then roll them out 24 hours later, guess what that looked like? It was just a big old hunk, and it was really hard to scoop it out and try to roll it out. So I know it takes an effort and your hands get all sticky, but this is totally worth it, and tomorrow you just have to kind of break it apart. So that is that. And you get to keep these in the freezer, and you don't have to go make them, which is dangerous, but so be it. If you're going through the effort, you might as well invest for the future too, right? So there you go. I put my little silicone topper, and we will find a spot in the fridge.
Okay, we let them sit for 24 hours in the fridge and we're ready to either bake them or freeze them. I'm going to put them all in my Ziploc bag so that we can just easily freeze them. We can take them out at any time, no need to defrost, you just pop them into the oven, but we're also going to bake some. So we've set the oven to 350 degrees, and here's my number 1 cookies on the orange Sillipat and my number 2 cookies on the red one. I'm putting 8 to a sheet to allow them some space to expand. But now we're going to put these sea salt flakes. I got these Jacobson sea salt flakes, so we're going to put some on. But I'm also going to put it on not all of them so that we can compare with and without sea salt flakes between the 2 batches. So I'm doing about half and half. Okay, they've been in there for about 15 to 20 minutes and here they come out. Oh, there they are. They look lovely. We took them out a little before. They looked really brown and done, and they'll just cook a little bit more on here. This part's the hardest part, the waiting.
My favorite time, taste test time. So we have this one, which is cookie 1, and cookie 2. They both have salt on it, if you can tell. And here we go. It's not super hot out of the oven still, but it's still gooey. Can you see that? Okay. It's like chewy on the inside, but crispy on the outside. And the sea salt flakes are so good. Okay. Look at that. I'm gonna take an outside piece just like I did. They're both really good. I don't know. I think I like cookie number 2 slightly better. I think it's just a tiny bit chewier. And since we did sea salt flakes on both, that's amazing on both. This one spread a little bit more. So I do feel like there's a little bit more chew or softness to it, which I like. But honestly, I'm happy with both. We also tried a few different combinations, like the not letting it sit for 24 hours. So we tried them, we baked them on the first day when we were rolling them. So we tried some of those and then we kept it overnight. So it's not an equal out of the oven comparison, but we tried it the next day, comparing it with the baked the day after and the day before. There was a difference. I did like the 24-hour ones better, but it wasn't that big of a difference. And so if I were in a crunch and I wanted to bake them, I would totally do it. Hands down. But the sea salt, the ones without versus the ones with were a big difference. And I would highly recommend the sea salt. And I think my whole family would as well. We also ate the ones that came out of the freezer. So we baked the ones out of the freezer and they were absolutely delicious. So there's no difference between the one day after versus putting them in the freezer for a little bit. So no worries about the taste not being as good. Absolutely delicious. Given the effort, there's a little bit of additional effort on the number 2 cookies. And so for that, maybe I would make the number 1 cookies more often. But then I would do the same tricks of the 24 hours overnight and putting the sea salt flakes on. So I guess I'm combining the 2. Is that allowed? That's how we make things better, right? So I think that is what I am going to do. I have these batches in the freezer, so this will be amazing to just take out at any time when I feel like I need a little chocolate chip cookie kick. I'm gonna eat the whole thing. I have to try it to taste test, right? So good. If you try it at home, let me know what you think. If you make both, let me know which one you like better. Well, I hope you try them and love them as much as I do. And thank you to my friends who love to bake and have shared their wonderful recipes with me.